Hello everyone, thanks so much for tuning in for another interview. I'm at the Global Gaming Expo. I've caught up with the American Gaming Association and Mr. Chris Cylke. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on camera with us today. Sports betting has been a topic at this event for several years now. And finally, we're seeing rapid movement, rapid expansion of regulation. But with that come some challenges. Right now, we have, I've actually lost track, 13 states or so that have legalized regulated sports betting, with more coming on. You guys on your website actually track that, don't you?
We do, and really it's been nothing short of remarkable since the Supreme Court ruled in May 2018 of just the progress at the state level and how many different jurisdictions have been interested in pursuing legal sports betting. We now have 18 states plus the District of Columbia that have authorized it. Many of them, as you mentioned, we have about 13 that are actively up and running right now, with several more that are just going to be launching this fall. And then we're looking ahead at the 2020 legislative session and expect a handful of additional states to move forward. So we could have up to half the country with legalized sports betting by the end of 2020, which is, I'd challenge anybody to find another issue that has grabbed the attention of state legislators the way that sports betting has over the past 18 months. So really, truly an outstanding result from our perspective.
It has been, and if they're not paying attention to it, when they see some of the revenue numbers come in, it may then suddenly become interesting. But you touched on an interesting point, because you were talking about the Supreme Court ruling, and we have this whole thing with the Department of Justice and New Hampshire, and they're battling that out. And pretty soon we're going to get some closure or a decision on that. How do you guys view this, and do you see this as the DOJ's position as a threat to the regulated sports betting industry?
I'd say it's certainly something that grabbed the attention of the industry across the board, and obviously, as you mentioned, it's in litigation right now and unlikely to be resolved until probably the end of next year. So it's something to continue to monitor. As it relates to sports betting, though, I know there have been a lot of folks who have speculated that it might slow the market or create some kind of chilling effect, but we're really not seeing that, because all the states that have moved forward recently have all included mobile sports betting, and I think they're designing their marketplace to be a intra-state betting market with geolocation and other parameters that would comply with not touching other state markets, which would be sort of the touchstone to implicating the Wire Act.
Right, and you bring up another good point there, because with them doing it intrastate, it certainly keeps them in compliance with the Wire Act, although there was some debate earlier in some of the sessions about with payment processing, how really nothing is ever kept completely within the state, but that's really a discussion for another time. But it does touch on an interesting point of harmonization in the industry as far as regulation goes, because there are some markets which may feel they're too small, it's not worth their time to regulate something when the pool of players there is not enough to sustain a regulated industry. But crossing state borders and doing a multi-state pool of players certainly could, and that goes for online gambling as well. But harmonization, again, that's another tricky topic, and you guys were in favor at one time of a federal framework, which I understand is different than federal regulation of sports betting. Is that still your position, and do you think that would help further expand this industry?
So we've been in favor of a long time ago, a federal framework as it related to some of the poker play. But as far as sports betting goes, I think we're very careful about what we wish for in terms of federal involvement, because while there are some areas around the margins that we think, as you mentioned, pooling liquidity across state lines, it could be very beneficial to a mature nationwide marketplace. I think as an industry that's historically been regulated at the state level, you always have to be careful about additional federal oversight or regulation of the industry. So as it relates to any kind of congressional action at this point, I think we've been at arm's length and sort of opposing that, recognizing that there could be some in a large bill, some things that benefit the industry, but I think as a threshold matter, no one wants the federal government more involved in our business at this point. So that could change down the road, as I said, once sports betting gets off the ground and reaches kind of a critical mass across the various states. I think we would be looking to maybe create a more frictionless marketplace across state lines, but at the same time, I don't think we're interested in the federal government dictating what state marketplaces look like, just based on the history of the gaming industry and the fact that we're already very heavily regulated at the state level.
I couldn't agree more. Well, hopefully, sir, next year when we're back here at this wonderful event, we'll have an interview about something much more positive, like how everything has resolved itself and how everything continues to spread, and we're now in more than 50% of the states. Wouldn't that be great?
It's all good. I think that there are always going to be challenges to growth, but at the same time, as I said, it's been just a remarkable 18 months, and people are seeing the benefits, and I think it's really a great opportunity. Sports betting has been a great opportunity for the gaming industry, I think, to tell our story and introduce ourselves to a lot of different stakeholders and let them know just what good partners we are in communities, and how dedicated we are to compliance and integrity and all of the like. So it's been a good run for us, and we're expecting it to continue.
Well said, sir. Thank you so much for coming on.